Hi students! In this video, we will learn the step 1 of English grammar, which is the sentence construction. Now, the basic parts of a sentence are the subject, the verb, and the object. The subject is usually a noun, a word that names a person, place, or thing, and it is followed by an auxiliary or a helping verb plus the main verb, and follows by an object. The same will be discussed further in the video. So moving on to the subject types, there are two types of subjects. The first is the singular subject, which is he, she, or it, and plural subject is I, you, we, they. Now here, I and you are an exception. So singular subjects will be used for one person. Example, a woman or a man. And plural subject, on the other hand, will be used for more than one person, which is women, which is more than one here, and men, which is more than one. So here, there are two types of verbs as we earlier discussed. The first type is an auxiliary or helping verb. Now, an auxiliary or helping verb is used with the main verb to help express the main verb's tense, mood, or voice. The main auxiliary verbs are divided in three categories. The first is present. Here, the words will be is, am, are, has, have, do, does. For the past, we will say was, were, had, did. And for the future, it'll be will or shall. Now, the auxiliary verb is always followed by an action verb. It is also called dynamic verb and expresses an action, whether it be physical or mental. An action verb helps explain what the subject of the sentence is doing or has done. Let's take a look at a few examples here, like walk, run, ride, sit down, stand up, fight, laugh, read, play, listen, cry, think, and so on. Here, the object is a person, animal, place, thing, or concept that receives the action. Determine the object in the sentence by asking the question, the subject did what, or to whom, for whom, etc. Generally, we use the object to talk about the thing or a person that the action is done to, or the one who receives the action. A direct object is a noun or pronoun that receives the action of a verb in a sentence. Usually it answers the questions what or whom about the verb. Here the example can be I like spaghetti or he reads many books. So here spaghetti and many books is an object. Now let's see what a prepositional phrase is. A prepositional phrase that begins with a preposition, example, in, at, for, behind, until, and so on, that we'll discuss in the next video, and modifies a word in the sentence. A prepositional phrase answers one of many questions. Here are a few examples. Where, why, in what way? For example, I like spaghetti for dinner, or he reads many books in the library. So always remember that prepositional phrase will come after an object. Moving on to the independent clause. An independent clause can stand alone as a sentence. It contains a subject and a verb and is a complete idea. For example, I like spaghetti, or he reads many books. So here, even if I say I like, or he reads, it is a complete sentence. Now let's see what a dependent clause is. A dependent clause is not a complete sentence. It must be attached to an independent clause to become complete. This is also known as a subordinate clause. Example, although I like spaghetti, or because he reads many books. So this is not a complete sentence. I would need the second part of the sentence as well. Now let's find out what are the different kinds of sentences. The first sentence is a declarative sentence. A declarative sentence is a sentence that makes a statement. A declarative sentence does not ask a question like, do you like cheese? Or give an order, example, pass the cheese. Or express strong emotion, example, I hate cheese. Declarative sentences simply make a statement or a declaration. They pass on the information. A declarative sentence always ends with a period or a full stop. For example, I like climbing. The second is an interrogative sentence. The basic function of an interrogative sentence is to ask a direct question. It asks us something or requests information as opposed to a statement which tells us something or gives information. Interrogative sentences require an answer and always ends with a question mark. Here the example is, did you take your vitamin this morning? The third is an exclamatory sentence. An exclamatory sentence conveys a strong emotion and ends with an exclamation mark. An exclamatory sentence or exclamation is a more forceful version of a declarative sentence. In other words, an exclamatory sentence makes a statement just like a declarative sentence, but it also conveys excitement or emotion. For example, we won the match. The fourth type of sentence is an imperative sentence. The sentence which is used to convey a command, a request, or a forbiddance is called an imperative sentence. This type of sentence always takes the second person, like you, for the subject, but most of the time the subject remains hidden. Example, clean your room or have a good day. Moving on to the three forms of verbs. English verb tenses are formed by combining one of the principal forms of a main verb with one or more auxiliary verbs. There are four principal forms: basic or root, present, past, and past participle. So present is a V1 and past will be a V2, followed by the past participle, which is a V3, which we will discuss further and will help us to prove our tenses in a proper way. So let's do some practice. Now here we see the V1, V2 and V3. We need to learn this by heart. Only then we can form better sentences. So the example is arise, arose, arisen, bear, bore, born, become, became, become, begin, began, begun, bite, bit, bitten, blow, blew, blown, break, broke, broken. Bring, brought, brought, choose, chose, chosen, come, came, come, do, did, done, draw, drew, drawn, drive, drove, driven, eat, ate, eaten, fall, fell, fallen, feel, felt, felt, forget, forgot, forgotten, forgive, forgave, forgiven, freeze, froze, frozen, give, gave, given, go, went, gone, grow, grew, grown, hide, hid, hidden, know, knew, known, leave, left, left, make, made, made, mistake, mistook, mistaken, ride, rode, ridden, ring, rang, rung, rise, rose, risen, run, ran, run, see, saw, seen, shake, shook, shaken, shrink, shrank, shrunk, sink, sank, sunk, speak, spoke, spoken, spend, spent, spent, steal, stole, stolen, swear, swore, sworn, swim, swam, swum, take, took, taken, throw, threw, thrown, win, won, won, write, wrote, written. So I hope this was a lot of practice on the V1, V2, and V3, which are the three forms of verbs. Now moving on to the types of sentences, let's take a look at the simple sentences. A simple sentence contains a subject and a verb, and it may be also have an object and modifiers. However, it contains only one independent clause. So the example, she wrote. Second is she completed her assignment. Third, they studied ground rules for many hours. Now the first verb, which is in yellow, it is a subject, which is she, and they. The one in the green is a verb, which is wrote, completed, and studied. The one in the blue is an object, her assignment or ground rules. And the one in pink is a prepositional phrase, which is for many hours. The next is the compound sentences. The compound sentence contains at least two independent clauses. These two independent clauses can be combined with a comma and a coordinated conjunction or with a semicolon. The example is, she completed her assignment and she created her reference list. Second is, they studied ground rules for many hours, but they realized there was still much to learn. Now here, the one which is in yellow is an independent clause and is followed by a comma or a semicolon with a coordinating conjunction which is in blue, which is and or but. Now the third is a complex sentence. A complex sentence contains at least one independent clause and at least one dependent clause. Dependent clauses can refer to the subject, who or which, the sequence or time, which is since or while, or the causal elements like because or if of the independent clause. If a sentence begins with a dependent clause, not the comma after this clause. If, on the other hand, the sentence begins with an independent clause, there is not a comma separating the two clauses. Here, the example is, although she completed her assignment, she still needed to work on her method section. Or they studied ground rules for many hours as they were so interesting. In the first sentence, note the comma in the sentence because it begins with a dependent clause. In the second sentence, on the other hand, note that there is no comma in the sentence because it begins with an independent clause. The last is the compound complex sentences. Sentence types can also be combined. A compound complex sentence contains at least two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. Example, she completed her assignment, but she still needs to work on her methods section even though she finished her methods course last semester. Or, with pizza and soda at hand, they studied ground rules for many hours, and they decided that writing with rules made sense because it was clear, concise, and objective. So here, the one in the yellow is a independent clause, followed by a comma or a semicolon, which is in green, then followed by a coordinating conjunction, which is but or and again followed by a dependent clause in blue. So pay close attention to the comma usage in complex compound sentences so that the reader is easily able to follow the intended meaning. So thank you for watching the video, and watch the next Step 2 grammar video on simple present tense. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.